everybody, and welcome to the Toronto Real Estate Show with Jenelle and Leslie. I'm Jenelle Cameron.
Hi there, I'm Leslie Pearson.
And today we're going to talk about multiple offers, everyone's favorite topic. Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to the Toronto Real Estate Show. Happy to have you here. Apologies again for audio last week. We certainly are having our challenges, but hopefully we got it sorted out this week. So welcome. And how's your week been, Leslie?
Uneventful.
Sold a condo. That's good.
Yes, we sold a really good news. We had a downtown condo listed since, towards the end of November. And I've talked about it before. Since the new year, traffic at the listing definitely picked up.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden in 1 week, we received 2 offers and it has sold. So that's really good news. And I think somewhat representative of what we're seeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been busy. I certainly, but weird. I'm going to say weird, busy,
Yeah.
but weird. I've got people looking for various types of products, not condos, but houses, and almost everything is set up for multiple offers.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that
Yeah.
today. But then there's still not a ton of inventory now. It is March break this week.
Yeah.
So that
it's
does
typically quieter.
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Sorry, that was me not turning off my phone.
So I bet a lot more will come out next week, Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll see a big flurry.
Yeah, it usually happens like that in the spring. We get a huge influx right after March break and then again after Easter.
Yeah.
Easter's early this year.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of setting a listing for like the end of April or the end of March and then realized, oh no, it's Easter. So we have to change that.
Yeah, I don't know what impact that has.
Oh, it has a big impact.
I know it does, but I don't really get why.
I think people just aren't motivated, right? And they're going away. So if you're having a short listing process or period, for 6 days or something like that, I don't think that you can necessarily spend 4 days of Easter,
Yeah. So really between March break and Easter, there's just like 2 weeks, I guess.
Yeah.
So it'll be busy those 2 weeks. And then after that through till like the middle of June, I think.
Yeah.
And maybe even longer this year.
Yeah. It could be interesting for sure. But in general, things have picked up. I mean, we still have one more condo downtown. Great building, great unit. If you want a condo, 1+1 bedroom, it's a bit of a slow go with the downtown condo still.
That doesn't make sense to me. That should have sold. It's such an appealing property.
I know. It's very frustrating when this happens. But I just keep assuming that it's, the right place for her to buy will happen when it's time, and then she'll sell. Either that or I have to go on a holiday because it usually does the trick. As soon as you go away, you get an offer. So other than that, I do anticipate, a lot more listings coming out next week and more activity. So, but we thought we'd talk a little bit today about multiple offers because
they
they're
seem
back.
To be back, and we're seeing so many of them.
Yeah,
almost every property I look at, I'm looking primarily these days in the East End, North Toronto a bit, and the East End.
Yeah.
And I would say without exception, they all have set offer dates now. So we've gone like from not seeing that to all of a sudden only seeing that.
Yeah,
like with the flip of a switch.
Yeah, and it's gone from houses sitting on the market for 2 months to like now selling with 10 offers. Like it's, and I think the hard thing for people to do is get, used to the idea. Just on that note, we said something about this in our last podcast briefly, and somebody had the nerve to comment.
Tell me.
Oh, I know, I forgot on YouTube something about like we sound like broken records and all you realtors are the same kind of thing. Well, we're just bitter
that
people.
Part of it makes no sense. I do sometimes feel like a broken record because we often say the same thing over and over again.
But we are reporting the facts.
Like all the same and in cahoots and whatever. We're in this business, so we're speaking about what we see and what we know of history.
Obviously spoken from someone who doesn't want to buy or doesn't feel like they want to be in the market. I don't even know. I can't understand.
I just don't get it. So there can be opposing views on everything. But when you look at the stats and you look at history, then the
Yeah.
truth where bears out, or whatever our saying is.
Yeah.
So you can have your different view, but show me the stats that support that view, and they're just not there.
I know. And you can be angry about multiple offers all you want, but it's not my fault or your
No,
fault. And it is
no.
what it is. I mean, we're not making it up. I mean, this is the reality of the
Yeah, when we
situation.
say this is what we're seeing all the time, we're not just saying that.
Yeah.
This is actually what we see all the time.
Right.
And it's a market factor. And I mean, does anybody begrudge a seller trying to pursue a strategy that would be the most successful for them?
Yes, a
How can you
buyer.
object to
A
that?
buyer.
Like, in what world would
I know.
opposition to that make any sense? So if
Yeah.
that's what you're mad about, that hey,
Yeah.
the market has shifted and sellers are kind of doing okay now, you know,
You
to
should
some
be
extent,
you
too
should be
bad,
an
so
owner
sad.
too. Yeah.
Yeah. Why didn't you listen to us all those months when we said this isn't going to last forever?
Yeah.
Act now.
I know. Honest to God. So unfortunately for those people like this grumpy pants,
And
that's
it's
the
not us
situation he's in.
setting this
Oh, I
strategy.
know. Like as
This is
if
a proven strategy that works.
I
So
wish I had that kind of control.
how can you begrudge people for choosing the strategy that makes most sense to them
Right.
based on, norms and success?
Because if you were a seller, we'd want you to do the same.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So having said all of that,
I didn't know that.
oh yeah, I get them all the time.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
do kind of feel like I sometimes get sick of hearing myself because I feel like
Yeah.
I'm saying the same things over and over again.
I
But
know, but
it is what it is.
it is what it is. I mean, we're kind of right. Sorry.
My family, we have a family joke where they all laugh at me because I guess when I was quite young, like maybe 7 or 8, we were having I don't know why I'm rambling on about this. We were having a family discussion, and I said in my little 8-year-old voice, like, generally, if there's an argument about something, generally the side I'm on is right. And I meant it. And I actually still do mean it.
Yeah. And I agree for my own sake and yours.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So multiple offers. So let's talk a little bit about strategy, how to prepare for that, how to deal with it, whether you like it or not. If you are a home buyer,
Yeah.
and unless you're buying a condo, like that's one exception.
Yeah.
But if you're buying a home and you're planning to buy a home in the next little while, this is something that you have to learn how to navigate, just how it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So the first thing is when you're looking at listings, you have to kind of determine whether or not it's a multiple offer situation.
Yeah.
So, how do we know that it's got a low price? So, if you look at something that you think is worth $1 million, and we'll just use this as an example today, but it's listed at $899 with an offer date, and that is something that your realtor will have to help you with, but it will say no offers until next Tuesday at 7. That is set up for a multiple offer situation. Some people like to call it a bidding war. It's not really a bidding war per se, but that's what it is. And so if it's set up like that, you know that that's what you're getting yourself into.
Right. And you know then that some decisions have been made by the seller in choosing that strategy.
Yeah.
Things like setting an artificially low asking price.
Right.
And that's done in a offer date situation to attract an audience.
It's a marketing strategy.
It's to get people in the door.
Yeah.
It's really not reflective of what the sellers would want to accept. But it's a strategic asking price to get them in the door and get more than one offer and get offers that are over that asking price
And firm.
Yeah, and
without
firm.
conditions.
So other factors that sellers, in addition to setting an artificially low asking price, quite often, at least in the 416 area, sellers would be doing what they can to make sure that any offers they get on offer date are firm.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll often see pre-listing home inspections, for example. In some areas, you might see termite reports. It's kind of localized what you might see. But the seller, once they've decided to set an offer date, is making selling decisions based on that strategy.
That's right.
So they would also, in a lot of cases, they move out for that period of time. And so to free up the property for visits, to
Mhm.
make it as accessible as possible.
Now, how do you answer the buyer that says two things? The first one is, well, it's listed for $899. I mean, how can they possibly expect to get more than that in this market?
Well, I tell them exactly what I've just said. And it does point to the importance of having a real estate agent who knows their stuff,
Mm-hmm.
because an agent who saw that listing for 899 and knows it's worth a million or more is going to they're going to say with certainty and confidence, they're going to be able to tell your buyers that. So I tell them that it's listed 899. It's an asking price strategy only chosen to get people in the door. It
Mm-hmm.
bears no reflection on the value of the property, and we have to go into it knowing that.
Yeah.
And I also talk about with them that given that this is has so quickly become the norm again, it affects the properties that we look at,
Mm-hmm.
what price range we look at. So
That's
if
right.
your max is 1 million, for example, in this market, it really makes no sense to look at properties that are listed at 979 or 999,
With an
right?
offer date.
Right, with an offer date.
Yeah.
So properties that have an offer date, if your max is a million, your max budget as a buyer, you've got to be looking at 799 or 899 most, I
Most.
think.
Yeah.
So I have that kind of conversation with them.
Same. And I often get I often get the pushback of, well, you never know.
And that's a tough one because I think they're right. You do never know,
You kind of
but
know.
you kind of know.
You kind of know.
You,
I mean, after 20 years, we kind of know.
yeah.
So I feel like,
And then, and then the informed and really, um, I guess, technology focused ones will give you the examples of ones where that didn't happen.
yes,
And
and that is the truth. And that has been the case
yeah,
for 6 months or
yeah,
so. Um, and now it's not.
yeah,
And so, we have to ebb and flow with
yeah,
the market. And I think, I can't stress enough that last year, if the house is worth a million, it would have been priced at a million.
right,
This year, if the house
right,
is worth a million, it's priced at 829.
right,
It doesn't mean
yeah,
the house is worth more money now
yeah.
necessarily. It might be, it might not be.
It's
It
just a
just
different
a
strategy.
different
It's a
strategy.
different market than it was. Yeah.
Yes. And
So
that's
yeah,
hard to wrap their heads around,
yeah,
right? Given where we've been for the last few months, but
yeah,
it is what it is. And I'm not sure,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I'm not sure what else to say.
No, I agree. Yeah, so that's it's hard too for, we talk about $1 million, and that's a
Mhm.
really, really hard price point.
It is.
And because just, the value of real estate in Toronto, what you can get for $1 million is a bit of a sticker shock for some people.
A nice condo downtown at
Yeah,
90
I mean,
Trinity.
right,
You can get that.
right. But
Um,
so, I have first time buyers who are in that price point, and they cannot believe the state of the houses at that price point.
yeah.
Well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
At that $1 million, sorry to say this, but you're
Yeah.
not going to get your perfect little, first time house. There's
No,
going to be work required no matter what we see.
you
There's
have to
going to be
move
some,
up.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, just a caveat to say that there are houses out there that do not have offer
Yeah.
dates. And there's generally a reason why.
Yeah.
They are, if they've been on the market for some time, they've probably already been scooped up. Or if they're still sitting around in this new kind of market frenzy, there's probably something wrong with the house, or it needs a lot of work, or it's overpriced, or
Yeah.
something. So, not to say that there aren't houses out there with offer dates, and we're talking GTA
Yeah.
primarily, but they're few and far between, and the ones that
Yeah.
are like that right now are not generally.
Yeah. And, when my clients, give me, and this just happened this morning, a couple of houses that sold for under asking, even having offer dates, you know, I'll say, well, I didn't get in to see that property. Did you?
Mhm.
No. Did you see the home inspection report? No. Like there's a reason.
There's a reason.
There's a
Yeah.
reason. And you would not have bought that house. So
Yes.
let's move on.
Now, there is one other thing just to confuse people that we do have to say about this,
Yeah.
and that is when because not everything is selling on offer night
Right.
with the low price point. So let's take our $1 million example. They've listed for 849.9. They're expecting a million. Offer day comes along. They don't get a million,
Yeah.
but we all know it's worth a million. And so they take the house off the market, put it back on at 1,029,000,
Yeah.
and then it will sit and wait until an offer comes in somewhere around the $1 million mark, which it generally will.
Hmm.
And that's another type of thing that happens. So a lot of times buyers will say to me, well, if it didn't sell for 899, why would anyone think it's worth more than a million?
Yeah.
But you
Or they
have to
think like,
remember,
oh, we can get a deal because it was 849.
right,
Like, let's go in at
right.
860.
Yeah.
Like, no, they don't. Sellers have three options. They can sign back a crummy offer and make changes. They can just out and out reject an offer, or they can accept an offer.
Yeah.
And they don't have to accept something that is below market value. So if they don't get what they wanted with an offer date, they
Mm-hmm.
don't have to sell it.
No, and they won't.
And so your chances are greater. Like if on that offer date, I tell my clients, even if you're the only one,
Yeah.
we should offer market value
Yeah.
because otherwise they're not going to sell.
Exactly. And
Mm-hmm. Do you
we've
want the house or not?
we've sold many houses like that where there's been only one offer,
Yeah,
but we've encouraged the buyers, or the buyer's agent is well enough
yeah,
aware to know, I know you're listed for 849 and it's worth a million, so we'd like to offer a million, and then you can kind of negotiate from there.
right.
But
But
in
don't think
yes,
not getting any offers or very low offers is an
is a problem.
opportunity or
Yeah,
a problem. Yeah,
yeah,
or for
because it
sellers a problem.
it will go back up on the
Yeah,
market for the price that this has always happened, by the way.
yeah.
It's really just been,
Yeah, it's always in this kind of market this
yeah.
happens.
And I did
Hmm.
see yesterday a number of homes listed actually in the East End, like a
Hmm.
couple in the beach, where this has happened,
Hmm.
where they relisted for the price that it's worth. And it will and we will tell our clients a lot of times, we know it's worth a million. Let's give it a shot to see what happens at 849. If we get what we want, great. If not, we'll just relist. No big deal.
Yeah,
And so
there's no stigma to that.
there's no stigma, and there's no harm in trying that strategy,
Yeah.
because it's only going to be on the market for 6 or so days.
Hmm.
If you don't get what you want and you put it back on the market, you've had no harm.
Yeah, but it's so hard, and I feel this for buyers to wrap your
Hmm.
head around this because, these kind of clients are always sending me listings. Oh, this is a great one. It's 969. Yeah, you have a million. Not going to work.
Yeah.
Like, and it's so hard for them to wrap their heads around that. But it might.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
it might,
It might, but I
but
don't
it's
think
not
so.
going to.
I think before we kind of get into the strategy to how to deal with it if you are going into a multiple offer situation, I think the overwhelming point of this story is that you need to understand and trust your agent.
Yeah.
They have to be on top of what's going on. They need to understand
Yeah.
market conditions. They need to know the neighborhood or the building well enough to understand this is typical for this type of home in this neighborhood on this street,
Hmm.
and that they can inform you accordingly, because it's really confusing for people to work with someone who doesn't understand it. And I do sometimes when I'm selling a home in Toronto and I'm seeing out of town agents come in,
Yeah.
and they're the ones, maybe I've got 13 offers and they're the ones that are like the four stupid offers. Like they don't have a clue.
Yeah.
And it's like they don't know, because they don't understand. They haven't researched the market. They don't know the market. And so there is a bit of that.
Yeah.
You have to make sure your agent knows what they're doing.
And you have to trust your agent. Like, I mean, we're in this for a living, but it's hard for me. So recently, it's hard for me to have buyers who just can't believe what you're telling them.
Yeah.
And so, for example, I had these buyers who are looking, they're still looking. And I believe we saw the best possible house they could get for their quite limited budget. And I know that if we don't get this, it will be months
Mm-hmm.
before if they have another opportunity. but they can't wrap their head around
Yeah.
what I'm telling them.
Yeah.
And so they're deciding not to offer on a place. And I say at this price point, everything's going to need work, or it's going to be on a major street and entry the neighborhood, or this or that. I know this. It's very hard when you have your
Hmm.
client's best interest at heart, and the market that they're in, and
They
it's
just
not
they're
enough.
not. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not ready or something.
I
I think
think
they have to I think they have to see. I don't know how
I
many,
think they have
but
to
a
learn the
couple.
hard
I
way.
think they have to see a couple of weeks or a
Yeah.
month of sale prices
Yeah.
and then get it. And then
Well, and that's kind of what I generally will tell my
yeah,
clients too is like let me predict the
yeah,
sale prices for these
yeah,
before you offer on anything.
yeah,
And if I'm right,
yeah,
if I'm
yeah. I
close,
do the same thing.
then you'll know,
Yeah, and I
you
think it
know.
takes a couple of
And if you
weeks
do
of
it
sale, like
5 6
yeah,
times in a row, they're like, "Oh, you do know."
yeah,
And I think that that's,
yeah,
and if your agent's getting it wrong all the time, then maybe,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
that's not a good fit for you. Okay, so now let's say you're doing it. The multiple offer is happening for a home you like. It is offers, next Tuesday at 7. We should talk about preemptive
I thought you were going
offers
there right now.
or
Yeah,
bully offers first. So, there's a thing, as you all know, called a bully offer or a preemptive offer. And that happens when, the seller has set an offer date, say for next Tuesday at 7, and somebody wants to put in a preemptive offer to try to scoop the house out from everybody else.
yeah,
The seller then has the opportunity to either accept that or wait till offer day.
yeah, and usually on listings, it'll even say
Yeah.
whether the seller would consider offers before the offer day. So often sometimes that it could sell before offer date, but sometimes that's not in the listing, and the listing and the cooperating brokerage doesn't know
Yeah.
that. Uh, even though there's a set offer date, the house could sell before that.
Yeah.
And there's really only one way to know whether that's an option, right?
Yeah.
And that is if you, as a buyer, have indicated an interest in the property. And that's really open to interpretation.
Yeah.
But I think most commonly um, uh, taken to mean if you've booked an appointment to
Yes.
see the property.
Yes. And then we all get notified through a
If you've booked an
system.
appointment through the
Yeah.
system, you will get notified that they're looking at offers before the offer date.
Yeah.
If you go to an open house with your agent, I don't think that there's
Nope.
no requirement.
Nope.
If you, so it's, and even the appointment that has to be booked to get notified can be in the future. You don't even have to have gone yet.
Yes.
You just
Yeah.
have to have had an appointment booked.
That's right.
So I always tell my buyers, let's know almost immediately when a listing comes out, and so I can look it up and see if there's
Yes.
an offer date. First of all, if they'd look at preemptives and book an appointment right away.
Book an appointment right away.
It's the only way you're going to know. You could, so many times, haven't you had this happen
Oh,
where a
yeah.
property has sold out from under you?
I haven't even had a chance to go yet.
No,
So you have to go right away. If you see something you like, go right away.
whether there's an offer date or not.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
Yes, especially. But even
Yeah.
if there's an offer date and you think you have till next Tuesday, go as soon as possible, because if someone else bullies an offer or they
Mhm.
want to do preemptive offer, all of you that have seen the house now have the opportunity to put an offer in as well.
Right, so you don't miss out.
So you won't
can
miss out. But if
participate.
you wait too long or too close to the offer date, you probably will miss out.
Yeah. And it's
And
the seller's prerogative to change their mind. They
yeah,
could at the outset decide on an offer date and looking at preemptives if any came in, but they could also just change their mind through the process. So you just have
yeah.
to be ready to move with any changes.
Yeah, and I saw a house the other day, and the seller had moved the offer date up by 2 or 3 days because it was so busy they couldn't
Yeah.
stand it,
Yeah.
and decided not to take a preemptive, but to move the offer date up. And again, like you said,
Yeah.
you would not know about that unless you also have booked the appointment. So
Yeah. And so sometimes, like last week, I had one where there was a preemptive like within 2 hours of it going on in
right,
the
and there's nothing
system.
you can do about
And
that.
so it's hard to say it sold, but it
Yeah,
sold within,
I
that
know
day,
it
day
happens.
zero.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm
Yeah, and
not.
if you
Yeah.
get a good preemptive, I mean, why wouldn't you take it, right?
Yeah.
And there's, different strategies for buyers of whether you want to be the preemptive offer or whether you want to wait it out. So I know you and I probably have different sort of views on that. You would be tend to be more of a bully offering type.
Well, it all depends. I do think I think some information, some statistics have borne this out. I do think there's some, more often than not, the initiator ends up not being the successful purchaser. So I
Exactly.
do always have that in the back of my mind, that the
Yeah.
person who starts the whole preemptive process
Yeah.
many times is not the one who's successful. So I
Yeah.
do, I
And keep
do,
this in mind because if you are going to be the bullier and you are the bully and you are going to put your preemptive offer in, everybody gets notified and every single person that has seen it already gets to put their hat in the ring. So all you've done is move the offer date up.
yeah,
And maybe you've cut out 20 showings,
yeah,
but you've just moved the offer date up. The only way it generally works, in my opinion, is if you do it really early.
yeah.
Like
Oh,
it has
100%.
to be within
Yeah,
like two
yeah.
days.
Yeah, the
Um,
closer you get to offer day,
it's just
the
a
less
waste of
effective.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah,
all you're, all also if it's like a long weekend or something that works, but otherwise all you're doing is speeding it up. And I mean, I have worked with clients that always want to be the bully. Let's do a preemptive offer, but my opinion is always like, let's just wait and see what happens. Let's let someone else do
yeah.
the
I'm probably more
preemptive
likely to do
offer.
it than you,
Yeah,
but I want to do it right away.
yeah.
And it's only if my buyers have funds to make it a substantial offer.
Yes.
Um,
Right, right. There's nothing I love when you have a listing and it's listed for 849 and then someone comes with their preemptive offer of 870. Would I
yeah,
take 870? And it's like, "What? No." we're expecting a million. What are you doing?
yeah.
So
I
you
can
do
top
get
that
that
this week. My clients wanted to go under asking
on a bully.
preemptively.
Right, right. Yeah.
Yeah,
That didn't thankfully that didn't.
no.
Right. But again, sometimes, you have to learn
Yeah,
maybe the hard
exactly.
way.
So that's something to keep in mind, that even with a set offer date, houses could sell before that date. So I think what Janelle says in terms of acting in haste is the most important thing
Yeah.
to keep in mind. The moment something comes out that you like, at least book an appointment, if not go and see it.
Yeah.
Even the few properties that we're looking at that don't have offer dates, in my experience in the last couple of weeks, they're going
They're all sold.
like fast
Yeah.
in a matter of days.
So now let's say you've made it to the offer date, whether that's a early offer date or the original offer date. What do we do? How do we get ready to put in
Well,
your
so
offer?
first of all, way before that stage, you must have your money in order,
Yeah.
because with your offers are pretty much exclusively done by email now, but you want to include a copy of a bank draft or certified check
Yeah.
with your offer.
And what do we want for bank draft?
I mean, how much?
Yeah.
I always say it's somewhere in the range of 5 to 10%, and it depends on the competition. The stronger, the better if we're against other people.
So hear us now. If you are in the market and you are planning to put an offer in any time in the spring market, you need to have your money available for a deposit, keeping in mind minimum 5% of the purchase price, which is generally what's asked for in most of
Yeah.
the GTA, not out of town. But that you have to know that that has to be ready. You can't get to offer day and go, oh crap, I bank with Tangerine and I can't get the
Okay.
money
So
for
that
2 days.
I just had that.
Tangerine.
So not tangerine, but
Yeah, I
another
get the
one.
Tangerine all the
So I've
time.
been working with these buyers for 2 months, and we have had countless conversations of just like that. You're going to have 5 to 10% liquid and immediately accessible,
Mm-hmm.
because when you see the house you love, we're going to pounce, and you're going to have that bank draft or certified check. Yes, 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 Leslie. Yes, Leslie. We have $200,000 saved. So we see this house they like, and I'm like, okay, we're going to make an offer. Get your bank draft. Well, he banks with something called Simply,
Right.
and they don't have storefronts, so they courier him the bank draft or certified checks. And it's 3 business days to get it. That is not having your money liquid and
No,
readily
and that's
available.
never going to work for them
It's
because
never
every
going to
time your
work
bank draft has to be
to the yeah.
to the brokerage that
Yeah.
the listing has. So,
So every time they nodded their head and said yes, yes, yes,
oh
yes,
yeah,
they thought they were liquid,
right.
but they didn't know how liquid they have to be.
Yes.
And that was a learning for me. Maybe I know I said it, but I think they thought they were meeting that
And
requirement.
I see this all the time. So if you are one of these people, get your money ready. Ready, as in you can access it within the hour
Yeah.
if you need to.
So open up an account at a
Right.
traditional bank.
And also, you should not be paying for anything. You should get a bank draft and it should be free. And it should not have to be paid like some, because I had clients recently that said it costs too much money to get a bank draft. I'm like, I don't know who you're banking
Isn't
with.
it, I think certified checks cost,
I think so, but
bank drafts don't.
bank drafts should be
No.
free. And I
Yeah.
don't think these people had to pay. So
Mhm.
if you don't have an account that you're getting a free bank draft, you need a new account. But
Yeah.
get that ready and do your math.
Yeah.
If you're planning on spending, $1 million, you have to understand 5% minimum,
Yeah.
right? It may
Yeah.
go up to,
And these people said, so they get their bank draft by certified check. So then they said to me, what if we're not successful? What do we do with our bank draft? I'm like, how the hell do I know?
Yeah.
Courier back to somebody? What do I know? Stop dealing with these ridiculous banks.
I know what you do. You go straight to a main
Yeah.
bank, open up
Yeah.
an account, put it in there.
So in this case, when they saw a property they liked, the wife has a normal bank account. So they were going to transfer the amount for the deposit to her account, but the bank puts a hold on it for 6 days.
Oh my God.
So we
Yeah.
still couldn't proceed.
Right. So how heartbreaking would that be if
Yeah.
this was the home of your
Yeah,
dreams and
exactly.
you've completely lost out?
Exactly. So yeah, when we say have your money readily available, we mean
Right now.
be able to go to the bank in 5 minutes and walk out in 15 with
a draft. Yeah.
And
for
it's
5% minimum.
And it's such a pain to have to do that every time and then take it back if you
Yep.
don't end up successful. But
It is what it is.
it is what it is.
Because you could do an offer and multiple offers and not bring your bank draft. You do have to, by law, provide it within 24 hours. But a lot of people don't want to go and do that every time they have to do an offer because it's a pain. And maybe they have to do it 3 or 4 times before they're successful. However, if you are showing up to a multiple offer situation without a bank draft and those 3 other offers have a bank draft, I'm picking one of those. Like, I'm not picking the one without a bank draft.
I agree. I'm doing the same as a seller's agent, like for sure. There's no question. You would only, if you had the option, you would only take the one that was photocopied with the offer. But at the same time, at the back of my mind, it creates no greater confidence that you're going to actually get the money.
The draft is going to show
Yeah.
up.
So
but in my opinion, if the person has gone to the bank,
it shows
shows
effort
intent,
and
right?
yeah.
They're not going to. I don't think you go through all of that. It's the person that's like, man, I'm not going to bother.
I just think
Forget
that
it.
the person who's not going to bother could get cold feet and back out regardless.
They could, but
still,
it actually has never happened to me.
No, nonetheless, if asked, I would take the one with
the bank draft. So that's why you should have it.
Yeah.
And again, if it's important to you, go ahead and do it. Right.
Yeah. So I think nowadays in this market, you have to have money ready.
Yeah,
that's the number one thing in getting ready for a multiple offer situation.
Second thing is, you mentioned getting your financing in order.
Yeah.
So the chances of you being successful with conditions, I'm sorry to say, are small.
It's the reality.
It's the reality.
Any conditions. So
any conditions.
On in a multiple situation, the chosen offer will be one that's firm.
Yeah.
Even if the offer price is lower.
Even if the offer price is lower.
Not hugely lower, but they, a conditional sale is not a sale.
No.
A firm sale is a binding contract.
And I'm scared of conditions of financing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and this is a tough spot. I think that, I feel for buyers, I've mentioned a few times, because they're being told, I think, by their lenders to put in a few days of finance condition. They're approved, they're pre-qualified. Go ahead, make an offer, let me know what you're offering on, but throw in a condition on financing just so we can do our due diligence, at the time.
Or appraisal.
And that may be theoretically the right answer. that is not going to be practically the solution.
Yeah.
That kind of advice is going to cause buyers to not buy houses
Yeah.
because a seller is looking for a firm sale.
Yeah.
So that's a tough one because I never want to counter the advice
I know.
that a buyer is getting from other counsel.
But I
But
do believe any lender worth their salt understands
yeah,
the process and will tell the buyer, look, I can't 100% guarantee you, but I'm 99% sure. You know, there's always a really small chance, but it should be fine. And from that, you need to have some confidence. Or if you are not comfortable with that, you need to buy something without an offer date and multiple offers
yeah, so that you could put
so
that
that
in.
you can do all the conditions you want and
Yeah,
people will be happy. And or a condo, which right now you don't need to have firm offers
yeah,
because they're
yeah.
not selling in multiples. And again, we're only talking about homes selling in multiple
Home selling
offers.
multiples, firm offer will win.
Yeah. Same
So,
thing with home inspection. A good agent will have done, listing agent will have done the pre-list home inspection,
mhm,
and that should be how it is.
mhm,
But not all of them do it,
mhm.
especially depending on the market. And
In
you
the
know,
905, I don't think they do it as much as
not
they
as
here. It's a
much.
given,
It's a
really.
given.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, if you are a buyer that needs to have a home inspection and it's not provided with the listing,
Hmm.
then you've got a couple of options. You can try to get one done in advance of offer day, which is something a lot of people try to do, or you can um, go without, obviously, which is, you know, can be stressful for people.
Hmm.
Sometimes people do a second visit before they put the offer in with someone they know who
Hmm.
they feel comfortable to really quickly check, you know, a couple of
Hmm.
minor things.
Hmm.
But it is a problem if there's not one done with the home. And unfortunately, that if you need a home inspection, and I'm not saying you should or shouldn't, but if that's something you really need, then that might not be the situation for you. You should wait for a home that has one attached to it
Hmm.
that you can feel comfortable reviewing,
Hmm.
and if you can't do one on your own.
Hmm.
Wouldn't you agree?
I agree.
Yeah. As a seller, you should be providing a home inspection, period, because you should be liable for putting and this is going to come back to bite people, I'm convinced. If you are not providing a home inspection, but if you are expecting multiple offers and only allowing 15-minute
Yeah.
appointments, um, at some point down the line, you're going to get sued.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. So do the smart thing, spend the $500, get a pre-list home inspection, cover yourself. We live in a different world
Hmm.
and there's a lot of liability out there and you have to be very careful.
I with very rare exception, would want all of my sellers, regardless of the market, to do a pre-listing home inspection, even if it isn't a situation of an offer date and expecting multiple offers, because it gives you negotiating strength.
Mm-hmm.
Because if people come back with obstacles or
Yeah.
challenges to the price or kind of thing, you can say, yeah, we knew about that because we had a home inspection done.
Mm-hmm.
And it facilitates firm offers if you choose
Yeah.
your home inspector well. And I like, and it maybe reveals some minor remedies
That you
that
might need
you
to
might want to
fix.
fix before you go to market. That
Yeah.
could make a huge difference.
The only time I recently in the last few months when things have been a little bit slower, I've done the pre-list home inspection and then the buyer has done an inspection
Yeah. So
condition
the
as well.
times generally where I don't do it are if it's a different market and I think it's going to take a
A
while
couple
to
weeks,
sell,
yeah. And they're
then
going to do
I
one
they're going to
anyway,
do one anyway
and
because
that's
it does
fine.
become people question
Yeah.
if it's stale. Sometimes with a brand new build, I wouldn't do one because they've had all the
Yeah,
inspections.
me too. Yeah.
So sometimes I don't do it in
It's kind
that
of a waste
case.
of time.
And
And I don't do them on condos.
no, oh,
People
definitely
sometimes
not.
ask.
And I think like estate sales
Yes, and
or
as
houses
is.
that yeah,
Yeah.
then there's
Yeah.
no point in doing it if you're selling a home as is because you
Yeah.
can't warranty anything.
And I
So there are
still
some circumstances
there
where I
are,
wouldn't,
yeah, I
but
agree.
most houses I would.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, as a buyer, please don't be concerned about someone else's home inspection. Like if you are interested in purchasing a home and they've done a pre-list inspection, I occasionally get pushback from a buyer that feels like it's going to be bias,
Yeah.
and it's not. Home inspectors, just like the rest of us, have, very stringent rules and codes of ethics they have to follow, and they are working in their client's best interest, of course, but they can't fabricate anything. If they say a house is good or the insulation's good or whatever the case may be, they mean it. They're not lying.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to worry about that. And I
No,
feel like I
although
just
I
have to
do
say that.
feel greater confidence if it's a home inspector who works in the neighborhood, so has looked at this kind of house many times and
Yes.
knows
Yeah.
some of the particularities of different neighborhoods. That gives me greater even confidence to
Yes.
tell my buyers
Yeah.
than if it's somebody. So, for example, we recently did one. Recently visited a house my clients were interested in where both the agent and the home inspector were from way out beyond Oshawa. And so, like, does he know that most homes in East York, 100-year-old homes, have some knob and tube? He doesn't know that.
Right.
Does he know that,
Might have
there's some,
termites,
yeah. So, but I mean, you're right. They all are work. I mean, they have reputations to uphold as well,
Yes.
and standards and ethical practices. So they're not going to hide anything. They just, some may not be as recently informed as others.
And if it's a good home inspector, they will allow you to ask those questions.
Yeah.
A buyer, and I've had this happen many times with when I've been on either side, but sometimes when I do a pre-list inspection and I'm getting questions from a potential buyer, I will say to them, you can reach out to the inspector. He's
Yeah.
offered
Yeah.
to have a conversation with you about
Yeah.
that. And I think that's
Or even a
really
walkthrough. Some of
important,
them will
or
do a
a
walkthrough.
walkthrough, and
Yeah.
maybe for $100
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
instead of, the full
Yeah.
500. But again, going back to sort of the multiple offer situation, any kind of condition, including an inspection condition, is going to be tough for a seller to work with when they've got other offers
If
that
they
are
don't
firm.
have to, why would they?
They wouldn't.
Yeah. The other thing that buyers, have to think about in a multiple situation is a relatively new issue that's been in the news a fair amount and that is that as of December, the rules changed and sellers can decide to reveal any or all of the contents of competing offers except for anything that would identify who
Mm-hmm.
the buyer was. So it's possible that the seller might choose that strategy and reveal contents of yours and other offers.
But the
So,
buyer does have the right to say they don't want
right,
their offer to be disclosed.
right.
So it's kind of
Yeah.
silly.
So I say that's a conversation for you to have with your agent as a
Yeah.
buyer when you're thinking of offering on a place.
Mm-hmm.
And the decision to do that is entirely the seller's. And the sellers can change their minds at any time. And you as a buyer have to accept that. We'll say what we're in 3 months into this, and no sellers are revealing contents, and no buyers are objecting to the revealing of the content. So it seems to be
Yeah.
a 100% non-issue.
Yes.
An
I mean,
issue that didn't go
I
anywhere.
wouldn't recommend my buyer reveal the content
So
of any
have you
offer,
put in offers?
or any seller. I mean,
Right, I agree.
yeah. Why would you?
Right.
It makes no sense.
Mhm. And if I were a buyer and a seller wanted to do that, it's not happened, but if they did,
I'd
I
say
wouldn't.
no.
But then your offer wouldn't be considered. So I wouldn't say no.
Well, not necessarily, because they're supposed to still consider it.
Yeah, but they wouldn't.
No, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's. I think
Yeah.
it's a
It's a
non-issue
non-issue, but
anyway.
it's something that we
Yeah.
have to now all of a sudden talk about with our buyers and sellers.
Yeah. For now.
For now, yeah.
It'll probably die off.
It's so funny. There were a lot of changes in December, prompted by I don't know, a lot of fear mongering, I think,
Yeah.
and have to address issues that I think were actually not issues.
I know.
And none of them have changed the game at all.
No.
Mhm.
No.
Their
No.
big changes were
That was a big change.
that was the biggest, that got the most airplay probably. The other one was self-representation.
Oh, right. No one's
Nobody's
doing
that's
that.
not going to
No.
happen. And the third was a new kind of relationship with your agent called designated representation. And I find people don't care about that either.
No, I don't even.
Like, who cares?
I'm not even really
Why does a
entirely sure I
buyer?
understand what the difference is.
Yeah, why would a buyer care what the
Oh, I
technicality of the
know. It's
labeling is?
ridiculous.
So, anyway, so that's just another thing the seller, your agent should tell you is that your offer might be revealed. Are you okay with that? Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Okay, no, all right, we'll throw this in.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
it's a weird.
but other than that, you have to prepare. The house on offer date generally will sell that day, so you'll know.
Yep.
And
You'll usually get the price the next day.
yeah,
And normally now you're doing it by email. Like I haven't seen any in person.
no,
God, I
not
hope that
since
never comes.
COVID.
It's not going to come back, is
No,
it? Jesus. We used to sit outside, you guys, for hours on a February
sit in our
evening,
cars. Yeah,
freezing to death,
yeah,
running out of
waiting for our
gas,
turn.
waiting for our turn. Be like, 23, you're up.
Yeah,
And then you'd be, wander in there. Hi, how are you? Here's our offer. And then you'd wait in the car until they told you whether or not you got it. And then you'd go home.
yeah,
And your clients would be waiting around.
yeah.
The
So
problem with that is having it by email is that we do tend to have more offers going in now,
yeah,
and of those, maybe not all of them are great because, as I've said before, no one really has any skin in the game. They don't have to go and sit outside freezing to death, client
yeah, it's not a huge
or
inconvenience to put in a
agent,
terrible offer.
not anymore. So, but you're right. They will generally sell on offer day. Then you get to know the price.
And
Then
you don't know the price right away because, as we've said, you submit a copy of the bank draft with your offer. The listing brokerage is not going to release the sale price until that actual deposit is delivered.
yeah,
So you have 24 hours to deliver it. So they're not going to talk about anything of the offer
yeah.
until they get that. And then you'll know it. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, I think just in general, if it's a house you want, go for it.
Yeah, and I would say that most often listing agents on behalf of their sellers are going to say to competing offers to come in with your best offer.
Yes, and that's a good point
Yeah,
because sometimes people hold back money because they think they're
yeah.
going to have a chance
Buyers think
buyers
they can
they're going
go
to have a
in
chance
lower
to
than they
go.
actually would
Yeah,
because they may get it for
right.
lower than they would otherwise.
But you may not. They
Yeah,
may not send you back. They may just take the best offer and that's
yeah.
it.
Yeah, and because you don't know unless a seller has chosen the option of revealing the
Yes.
offer prices, and they're
Right.
not doing that. You don't know.
Yeah.
And so by going in low, if especially if they said come in with your best,
Yeah.
you risk just wasting your time.
Yeah. Don't you love it when you're the listing agent and like you get offers and you tell people, because my advice, and everybody's different, but my thing is always bring in your best offer. Unless they're close, I'm not going to send anyone back.
Right.
But sure enough, there'll be one person who's angry that I didn't send them back. And it's like, I told you specifically come in with your
Yeah.
best offer and I'm not sending people back.
Yeah.
And I try to be really transparent about that as a listing agent. And I'll say, if there are any offers within $5,000 of each other or $2,000, I usually do something really close like that. Then we'll just take the best one. So come in with your best. And there have been instances where I've had the exact same offer,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
and
I'm.
then
I'm
and
not
then
as.
what do? You go with the one that has probably the bigger deposit,
Yeah.
assuming they're
I'm
all
probably
firm.
not as particular as you in that case. I just say, something vague like it was, the maybe two offers are just too tight,
Mm-hmm.
too too indistinguishable for the seller to make a
Yeah.
choice because it's not always the number.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the closing date.
Sometimes it's
Sometimes
closing date
it's a
conditions.
wonky
It's
clause
yeah,
even.
yeah,
So sometimes, if the price is more on a weirder offer, they might be torn between a lesser price and an offer they understand.
yeah,
So I try not to specify. I just say, it's between you two guys and they can't call it right now. So
yeah.
can you do anything to improve it?
So that could happen, but also could happen where they just take the best one.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
don't expect to
And
get
I
another
think I
kick at the
find that
can.
more often than before,
Yeah,
sellers are
just
taking
taking.
that view.
Yeah, I think you try to. I think most of us try to encourage our sellers not to be greedy
Yeah.
too. Like if you're already getting the amount that you were hoping to get or more, like don't just try to. I know you want the most you can get, but like you do run the risk as a seller of people walking away.
Right. And you run the risk of issues coming out if you take like one that's clearly higher than the rest and it not appraising at
That's yes,
that you
exactly.
can run into problems with
Yeah,
a number that doesn't make sense.
that's right.
If a number doesn't make sense, I'm as concerned about it as a low
Yeah,
ball.
I don't like. I think that's a
Yeah.
bad right. Or they don't. Those are the people that don't bring the deposit check.
Right. They don't show up the next day.
Yeah,
So it's all great the night before when you're 50,000 over your competitor,
right.
but when you don't show up,
You're
you
like,
haven't sold your
buyer
house.
says, "Did we pay too much?" Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we'll wrap it up because we
Yeah,
babbled on.
we rabbled.
But yeah,
I hope this has recorded.
I hope this is it's definitely recorded. I hope it sounds okay. So listen, guys, if if you have questions about this is really important. I think like more than anything right now is getting this right. Feel free to reach out to us. We can help you through the process. Happy to answer any questions. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social channels at the Jenelle Cameron team, and make sure you are subscribed to wherever you're listening to this podcast, and drop us a rating too if you don't mind. And thank you. We're getting feedback, so thank you so much, people.
Some good feedback.
Oh, always like from real people, good feedback. From the people who think that Leslie and I are in control of the Toronto real estate market. I appreciate your confidence.
Let me tell you, I'm in control of nothing.
Yeah, me too. But I mean, we'll take it. We like to think we're in control. And I feel on some level that's almost like a kind of, kudos to us for giving people that impression that we
Yeah.
are controlling the entire real estate market. Yeah, anyway, I always appreciate your feedback, even when it's negative, because it's amusing.
And it means you're listening.
That's right. You're listening.
And I don't mind anybody disagreeing with anything we say, but I really only appreciate it if they can back it up.
Right.
Looking forward to being proven wrong.
But if they can't back it up, it's fun. It's funny. I appreciate it. Okay, guys, thanks again, and have a great week. And we'll talk to you next week.
Happy real estate, everyone.
Happy real estate.